industrial revolution. Industrial revolution means the industrial revolution we enter into another very important concept in the history of political thought. This concept is the concept of Nasdaq. The industrial revolution, what we see to emerge, very powerful system, still nowadays very powerful system. Yes, which no, the industrial revolution came with the growth of capitalism. Yes, capitalism. The industrial revolution means one thing, means many things. So let's go back. We have these courts, beautiful ideas, social contract ideas, enlightenment ideas, which means individual rights, human rights, civil rights, political rights, democracy, liberal democracy, all beautiful ideas. Okay, all beautiful ideas. Then the American Revolution and the French Revolution made this idea very simple. Okay, so the two revolutions we have the American Revolution, we have the French Revolution. They took the ideas of the social contract, they took the ideas of the Enlightenment, and they made it real, and established Western civilization as we still know nowadays, which is a civilization based on the principle of human rights. Civil rights to be protected everywhere in the world. Only the regime that respects individual rights are legitimate, liberalism. And only the regimes who got the parliament elected by the people, popular sovereignty, are democratic and then are legitimate. So these are the principles of the Western civilization, and they say the nations who don't respect this principle are not legitimate. So, as we said, after World War II, we wrote again the declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was done for the first time after the French Revolution. We did it again, and we say, we want to preserve these rights. So there must be no war all over the world, but sometimes there were war, and always we waged war against regimes that we say they don't respect human rights, so we're gonna attack them in order to bring democracy, in order to bring the respect of human rights. Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Taliban in Afghanistan, and so on and so forth. Okay? So Western civilization is still based on these principles. The other nations, they say, yeah, you say this ideology of human rights, you say this ideology of democracy, but what you want actually is to bring your economic system, which is capitalism, as a system of global domination. You say human rights and democracy, but what you want is to expand the capitalism. And you do wars to take oil. You want to control the energy. You want to control oil. Because the energy is always the most important economic thing. And so we get to this third revolution. After the French Revolution, the American Revolution, we have a revolution which is not political, but still it's a huge revolution, which is the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is based on one main principle. Things all over centuries and centuries, we had to use the physical energy of human beings and the physical energy of animals. The Industrial Revolution was based on the invention of the steam machine. So in the factory, you can put a machine with the steam machine, which means that functions through steam, and that do the job. This means that you can produce through this machine, which goes with steam, you can produce 10,000, 100,000 times more commodities than through labor, human energy, animal energy. Okay? So the Industrial Revolution produced this huge in the amount of wealth that there is all over Europe, let's say at the time. So it's a growth in prosperity. And also they put this steam machine and they applied to boats. So public transport also improved. And then also, they invented the train, because before you could only move through by one horse, right? So they invented the train, big new means of transportation. This means that the market is expanding a lot. You can trade all over the world through these new, ferry boats and so on through these trains. So huge market, huge increase in prosperity. But this new prosperity also comes with new poverty, with new inequality, because we see that the Industrial Revolution brought about a huge shift from rural agricultural economy to urban economy, manufacturing economy, industry. This comes with huge amounts of people coming from the countryside to the city, and in the city they have to pay the rent, they have no family, they have no community, they have no network, and they only have their own labor to sell to the capitalist in the factory. So we have the growth of this new class, which is very deprived, which is an industrial class, which is the working class, very deprived. And so whilst the French Revolution and the American Revolution say that all men are equal before the law, all human beings are born equal and endowed with natural rights, we see that with the Industrial Revolution we have new inequalities. These new inequalities are not political inequalities because we promote political rights for everyone, are not legal inequalities because we say we all human beings are equal in front of the law, but are social inequalities. Because they exist in society, they exist in the social conditions. The emergence of a new ideology which addresses these new inequalities. What is the name of this new ideology that addresses the social inequalities? Socialism. Social inequalities, socialism. Socialism also is promoting social rights. Yeah, it's good that we have the right to vote, it's good that we have the right to be equal in front of the law, but if you cannot read, if you're illiterate, this is not the right that exists. So you have to give the social rights to education. You have to give the social right to work, to have a good work, to got educated, and so on and so forth. So you see the emergence of socialism. And yesterday we were discussing the founding father of socialism. So Karl Marx. What do you have to remind about Karl Marx? You have to remind the following things. So we can consider that the life of Karl Marx. So Karl Marx lived all through the 19th century. Okay? So all through the 19th century. He was born in 1818. He died in 1883. So he lived all through the 19th century. He saw the Industrial Revolution. He was the main theorist of the Industrial Revolution, the main theorist of capitalism. He analyzed capitalism all his life, and he is the founding father of the ideas of socialism and of communism. His life has two main parts. In the first part, he lived through Germany, France, Belgium, and here he did a lot of revolutionary activity. He wanted to make a revolution in Europe. Then he got expelled from France in 1848. They did a revolution. It didn't work. So he went to England. And in England, he focused on the economic system, studied capitalism, and so on and so forth. So for the first part of his life, the most important book you have to remind is the Manifesto of the Communist Party, which the Communist Manifesto, which he wrote together with his very good friend Friedrich Engels, which is about the theory of the transition from capitalism to socialism, which is the theory of the working class and capitalist class. The second part of his life, he wanted to better understand how capitalism works. Say, communism is not an idea. He was not an idealist that he said, yeah, we have to project this idea of communism, how it should work. No, he said, well, I want to study capitalism in order to understand how it can be overthrown. So he's a realist. He's a realist, even though he's the founding father of this big utopia, which is communism. But his idea of communism, he wanted to bring up by analyzing reality, the reality of capitalism, of capitalist exploitation. So, second part of his life, the most important book is Das Kapital, The Capital, 1867. Okay? So, first part of his life. First, he wrote a lot of books in general. First thing we have to understand, So far, we only focus on the legal domain, on the state, on sovereignty, on civil equality, but these things are abstract, are just ideas. We want to study reality, and real life happens in society. So we say society, the social domain, is the most important part of philosophy, and we never consider this part. So first thing, from the state to society. This is the first shift. So politics is just an abstraction. It doesn't look at social reality, the social things. So we look at reality, and we have to, understand reality to transform it. Also, you saw in the trailer of the movie I saw you, he said, so far the philosophers only interpreted the reality. Now philosophers have to transform. So it's a realist, but he all his life he was first and foremost he wanted to be a revolutionary man. He didn't want to be a philosopher. First and foremost, he wanted to be a revolutionary. And he said, yeah, so I have this idea of transformation, but this idea must find a force of transformation, must be embodied in something that can transform history. And the force of transforming history is so in the private people, is so in the proletariat. Because he said these people have nothing to lose, but they want chains. They want to be free because they're exploited by the capitalist system. So I want to make a philosophy which can be embodied by the proletariat and become a revolution through the force of the working class. So this philosophy is called praxis. Philosophy means that philosophy should become, something material, should become political action, should not be, just abstraction. So then he met Friedrich Engels. Engels was the son of a very rich manufacturer. So Engels he had a clear idea of the conditions of the working class. So he started this partnership with Engels, and they wrote this book, The German Ideology. What is the point of the German ideology? What do we have to remember? Marx first says the most important thing for philosophy is the concept of society. But in this book with Friedrich Engels, he said society is divided into social classes. So the Communist Manifesto starts with this word, the history of all society that have ever existed is the history of class struggle. From ancient Rome, where you had the struggle between the patricians and the plebeians, to the Middle Ages, in which you had the struggle between the aristocracy and the bourgeoisie, until the industrial society, in which you have the conflict between these two classes. One is the bourgeoisie, the capitalists, those who are the owners of the means of production, of a lot of private property, and the proletariats, those who don't have private property and who sell their own workforce, the working class. The working class, and they say, so industrial society is marked by this conflict. But he says, he kind of liked capitalism. He said capitalism is better than the old system of aristocracy, is better than the feudal system. It's a step forward. But he mostly liked capitalism because he said capitalism is making the working class bigger and bigger and bigger and more exploited and more exploited and more exploited. So capitalism is bringing about its own overcoming, how superamento, which is due to the fact that capitalism is producing the growth of this working class, which is antagonist to capitalism because it suffers the exploitation, it suffers child labor, it suffers unhuman conditions of labor, it suffers deprivation, so it's naturally antagonist of capitalism. But capitalism needs the working class to grow and grow and grow and grow to notice. So one day, the working class, the capitalism will produce the condition for its own overcoming. Because this working class will become bigger and bigger and bigger, and one day it will make the revolution. So the revolution is on the one hand the consequence of growth of capitalism, and on the other hand the consequence of the revolution of the working class. Okay, so this was his idea. This was his theory of the revolution. One day, the proletariat will grow so much that we will have this revolution, which will bring from capitalism the system to socialist system. The difference from a capitalist system to a socialist or communist system are two. One, communism will abolish private property, because private property is the origin of inequality, social inequality. So without private property, we will have a society without classes in which there is equality. So this is the Communist Manifesto, is theory of revolution. Okay, he tried to make the revolution. The revolution didn't work very well, so he had to go to England and spend the rest of his life in England. And in England he focused on studying capital, because he said the anatomy of society is in the economy. So we have to study the economy, we have to study capitalism in order to understand how revolution can happen. Yes, so basically he started in Germany, he wrote in Germany originally. So most of his work, the original are written in, even the capital is written, the original is written in German, so there is a lot of discussion. Obviously, he lived in Paris, he spoke French. He lived in England, he spoke in English very good. So some books he wrote, for example, there is not one book, The Mystery of Philosophy, he wrote straight in French, because he was paid to write straight away in French. So he wrote it in French and in English, yeah. But it's like, you know, where you're from? Iran. So you learn English, you write your thesis in English, right? If you go to live to France for your PhD, in 1 year you will learn French and you will write the PhD thesis in France, right? Yeah, so I spoke 3 languages, yeah. We all should speak at least 3 languages, right? How many languages? Farsi, English, parli italiano? Va bene, facciamo l'esame in italiano allora domani, va bene? Okay. Yeah, I mean 3 languages is basic if you wanna have an international career, right? So it was still writing mostly in Germany. So yeah, this is why when reading Marx is difficult, because you know you should know at least basics of Germany, because it's very difficult language. You know, Germans, they have their own ideas. Who speaks German? German here? Nobody. So, for example, it's very difficult. Power, violence. In Germany, you say Gewalt, but it also means power. You know, which already say something about the Germans, which say power and violence in a very similar way. Then you say that communism is not an ideal, is the real movement who abolish the state of the status quo, the state of the things that are present now. But then you say the Aufhebung you cannot translate very well in English because it's overcoming, but it's also abolished, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's difficult. Marx is difficult because there are many interpretations about this German language. So yeah, it was writing in German. So then he went to England, and in England he focused very much on studying the political economy. He wanted to understand that it's a philosopher, but then he became an economist, because he said we have to understand the economy in order to understand how we can overthrow capitalism. So he wrote this book, Das Kapital, which is a very important theory of capitalism. So let's say some of his main concepts in the critique of the political economy. So its most important concept in terms of economics: use value and exchange value. So his point is capitalism transforms things from use value to exchange value. So let's say, I don't know, this phone. This phone, has a use value. So when I need to call my mother, it has the use value of calling my mother. The bottle of water. When I'm thirsty, bottle of water has the use value because I need it. I need to use it, because I'm thirsty, and I need to drink. So everything has a use value. That means it has an utility, and in that moment you use it because you need it. So there is a use value. The things used before capitalism, the things used to value for the use you make. The value was the use you could make. Transform things into commodities. Means that from the use, the most important thing will become the exchange value, meaning the price that they have. So capitalism, produced commodities which are marked by their own exchange value. So the bottle of water, it's €1. However, it doesn't matter, and so if you're rich, you can accumulate a lot of bottles of water. If you're poor and you're thirsty, you cannot, use this bottle of water according to its use value, because the exchange value is more important. So is commodification. Capitalism transforms things from things that have use value to commodities who have exchange value. Fetishism of commodities, right? This is the thing. Capitalism wants to transform everything into commodities. We saw this with industrial capitalism, which is the production of things that becomes commodity. Right now, it's even more pervasive, because we have digital capitalism, in which want to make even your feeling and emotions, they want to transform into commodities. Because when you put a like to the guy you like on Instagram, they're gonna take the information, they're gonna make a profile on you, and they're gonna sell your profile to an advertising company who will pay for your profile. So the exchange that you have, because you have friendship, because you like a guy and so on, they manage to transform into commodities that can be sold through the advertising market. Right now they take, they even able to transform your emotion, your feelings and so on into commodities that can be traded and sold through, data and advertising market. So this is use value and exchange value. Everything, capitalism transforms everything into use value and produce this fetishism of commodity. It will produce this, consumerism. Then the other thing, you have forces of production and relations of production. The forces of production, according to Marx, in capitalism are two, the machines and the human labor. These are the forces of production. Relations of production is that there is a domination between those who owns the means of production, those who owns the machine, while the capitalism have domination forces above the proletariat, the working class. So relations of production is which class is controlling the production. And we say so far is the capitalist class, but the more the working class will grow, there will be naturally the shift towards a new relations of production, and so the shift from capitalism to communism. Okay, then what do we have? We have the surplus value, the labor theory of value. So the price of this thing, say Marx, depends on how much human labor you have incorporated, you have used to produce this thing. More labor you need to produce this thing, the more this thing has a price, as an exchange, a higher exchange value. So the more labor is incorporated in this thing, the more value, exchange value, the biggest is the price. Price, the value, the exchange value of a commodity depends on the labor you needed to produce. But so what it is, there is human labor. So exploitation is the point that there is a surplus value. Okay? So if the worker put 3 hours in this, let's say, if this costs 10 euro, 10 euro because you have the work of the worker, the labor of the worker produce a certain amount of value, the capital is based only a minor amount of value. And then there is a surplus value of this labor that the capitalist took from itself. And this is the exploitation of human labor, the surplus value, and this is how exploitation works in a capitalist system. In a communist system, it will be a system in which all the value will go to the workers. This redistribution of wealth, all things, all the differences of classes will be abolished, because there will be not anymore the capitalist ownership of the means of production. And so this is the theory. So you have to remember this, society, according to Marx, made a theory of the industrial society as divided into two classes, and made a theory through which the working classes will grow, and this will bring about the shift from a capitalist system to socialist. Okay, so these were somehow nice ideas. But let's say could remain just ideas. We could just study Marx as a philosopher, because Marx has these ideas of taxes. But so if Marx is so important, the ideas of Marx really transform society, because something, the biggest country of the world in terms of territory, Russia, took the ideas of Marx and really made the communist revolution happen, because there was a guy who took a train from Switzerland one day and said, this is the moment, this is the time to make the communist revolution. So we have Sabina right now presenting